How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today I've just got some mission gameplay with the TUZ-16, giving it a bit of a sort of on-the-job test. I'm going to do the mission Unlucky Number, but I end up yeah, you'll see. I've still got the mission gameplay. Just want to show you quickly again just how to get the front bumper off. So when you equip the one with the scaffold pipes and all that, and then you put the tool beacons back on, as you can see, my front bumper's now gone, which is pretty handy. I sort of prefer it if I can remember. And when I leave garage it'll be gone, but then when I return to garage it'll be back on. But as you can see, there is no front bumper. It's just one less thing sticking out that could catch on rocks and all sorts. Yeah, when I recover, the bumper's back on. All you do, equip the scaffold front bumper and then go up to miscellaneous and equip the tool beacons, and yeah, it removes the scaffolding bumper, but it doesn't revert it back to a stock bumper. It just removes it completely, which would be a nice option on a lot of other trucks. But yeah, that's what I found for this, and that's just one less thing to worry about, I suppose. So I've put a crane on it, put the single sideboard. This Unlucky Number mission is only one single cargo. I nearly went and did it with the Dolphin and Loaf, and then I was like, oh, hang on a minute, actually, because I've kind of wanted more single cargo missions to, or I more said in like the original missions, there wasn't really many single cargo missions, that there was never any point really in using the single sort of cargo flatbed on the Scouts, and I still wouldn't, to be honest, because the tyres are too small. But yeah, it's nice now. Obviously you got this. There's also the Ford F750. I might see if I have any other missions that can do one cargo. So I'm on my way. Like I say, I've got the crane and the sideboard. I'm taking a Loaf with me with a roof rack, just because, well, not just fuel, but I know when I've drove this thing before, it is possible to roll it. I also wanted to see how quick it goes when I'm towing a Loaf behind me. And to be fair, once you put it in high, that's the nice thing, like, the high gear in the high range gearbox is kind of like my bread and butter of the game, really. Like, everywhere I'm going, I'm basically mostly in high, unless I'm in a really bit of slow terrain, and then I use one of three things: either auto, the basic low range obviously that you get, or my winch. I haven't actually selected the mission. To be honest, this was one of the least attention I've paid to a mission. I'd seen it was called Lucky Numbers. I left, or Unlucky. See what I mean? It's called Unlucky Number. I didn't even click on it at this point. I was just like, oh yeah, I know where I'm going. And then for some reason, instead of going to where you get like the prototype radar trailer thing, I went back to the sawmill. As for this TUZ-16, there is elements I like about it, but then there's bits like this where, I mean, look, the Loaf's pushing it, and the Loaf's got tiny little wheels and stuff, so yeah, I appreciate it. I was in the high there. I did leave it in the high a bit long, but I don't know, even in bits of snow sometimes it does feel like it's a little bit over punished. Like I say, I'm sort of, even though I went to the wrong place and stuff, I've still got all the gameplay, and I'm kind of happy. It shows a few other little things I can show you, sort of like using the crane and stuff. I rolled over once, managed to save my own bacon a bit. This is the other bit as well that is just on the way, and it's like insanely slow snow. I have to say, this with the crane and everything on felt better through there. I suppose this thing's problem really is it's so light, even though what weight there is sat over the front wheels. It yeah, it doesn't force itself into the ground very much and get much grip. Like the opposite end of the scale is like the P16, or I suppose the Clubs, but the P16 is a good example because it's only rear wheel drive, and if it weighed hardly anything it'd probably be pretty useless, but because it weighs a ton, it absolutely plants itself in any terrain, and it sort of, yeah, makes its own grip. I kind of knew that would happen. I keep sort of testing it every time anyway. It's another reason to bring, not just a Loaf, bring whatever you like, whatever you fancy taking out, but particularly on this map when you're going around ice, well, it's quite worth it in any map really to Travel in pairs, take a spare truck or scout with you. Again, one of the many reasons I prefer the loaf is it just doesn't weigh a lot, and when I'm driving along in high it just still drags it. Like if I was trying to drag a Tatrin behind me, I'd be forced to go as slow as the Tatrin pretty much. I mean, look at the loaf, goddamn professional. Eats them meaty rocks for breakfast. Nom 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 nom. That's definitely what she said. See, I definitely do enjoy this ice. I love, like, effectively driving through it and all that. And it does kind of teach you a good lesson in general on this game that travelling in pairs is a lot better than travelling on your own. But I do sort of wish in the long run they would tone it down a little bit. Not because it, like, bothers. I think they pretty much nailed it with the ice. But the only thing I would say, it's just a little bit too difficult to the point where it's not really worth, like, unless I'm messing around or whatever, or like just the way I am on this game, I just can't help myself, and it's like, well, you never know. I'll try it, but yeah, effectively it just makes you think like, well, I may as well go around it. Whereas if they made it a little bit easier to where it was sort of, there is a pretty good chance with a little bit of effort and steering and that you could get back out of the ice, it'd help. There, by the way, I was driving along, leaning back on my chair, and my cat jumped up. Like, I think I kept holding the accelerator, but that was it. I couldn't steer. Well, I could steer, but I didn't know where I was steering. Flipped the loaf as I stopped. As you can see, that's one thing I do like about it as well. Even this little thing, which doesn't have a whole lot of pulling power at all, was still able to tip the loaf. And the loaf does have a pretty decent habit of yeah, just getting back to its wheels. See, but bits like this as well, and I really do like this. I like messing around on the ice. Again, I knew it was there, I knew it was gonna happen at some point, but because the TUZ is pretty light, it's hard to explain with the ice, because sometimes I have drove relatively heavier vehicles over the ice. And like I say, with this TUZ, it doesn't really weigh a lot, but a lot of its weight's at the front, so its front tyres in particular do punch through the ice. It's the same with the loaf, to be honest. The loaf can get over the ice, but not always. Sometimes if it's going to be anything, it's pretty much always its front tyres. Not just because they get there first, but even when I'm driving across the ice, it's going to be them if anything. Right, so basically at this point, the mission that I've not even got selected, so I've not got any squares up or anything, I'm supposed to grab service spare parts from that sort of factory area I just drove past. I dropped the loaf off because I knew I'd just be flying down here and flying back anyway, so yeah, took this for a little run. That road there, like, the camber's pretty bad on it. It nearly got me the other day as well, what were they, in the Dolphin. It's good, like, you can definitely, they're slightly trollish on this game. There's definitely bits they put in that you know full well. They were bloody laughing when they were putting it in, thinking, yep, that'll get them. That'll fuck them up. I went to turn there, I was doing alright, and then I just got like a nice speed boost as I came off the snow, and then suddenly it was like, well, that's not enough steering. So yeah, this is the wrong place. But while I'm here, I can show you a little bit to do with the crane, like how well it balances, etc, etc. But yeah, don't bother coming here, you don't need wooden planks. So I've got the crane out. I haven't got my legs out at the minute. However, I wouldn't say, I don't know, the wooden plank, they might be a bit heavier, but you can see I'm already leaning. I was basically going to tip. Got my little crane legs out. But they eventually sort of stopped me from tipping, but as you can see, it's not an ideal vehicle for the crane. It's a little bit like the Loadstar, as much as I like the option of having a crane on the back of that. It's just the profile of the truck is too small, really. It's like, obviously, a crane on, like, Bruce is a perfect example. He's 10 wheels, it sits nice and wide, sits pretty low for what it is, and yeah, that practically never tips or moves anywhere. This thing, I mean, if you're doing one piece of cargo, generally speaking, the wooden planks is probably, to be fair, one of the heavier single slot cargoes. So again, I'm still not paying attention. I've still not even selected the mission. I looked at it earlier, and then I think I went and made my dinner and all sorts. And then when I came back, I just kind of assumed, yep, I know where I'm going. And yeah, as you can see, completely got it wrong. I'm now driving around with wooden planks when I don't need to. Question then, I suppose, of course, is how long does it take me to realise? See, those massive bits in the road, I suppose that one sort of makes a bit more sense because you can kind of cut off to the left, plus then there is breakable ice there that you can drive over. But this one coming up that's outside the factory is just over the top for, I don't know, over the top for the sakes of it. See, other bits like this as well, it's not really a challenge, it's just sort of bits like that feel like they've been put there for the sakes of it. I'm not that bothered. Overall, I really like the map. At the cliff edge, I really like. The breakable ice, I really like. A hell of a lot of the map I really like. There's just a few bits, yeah, sort of, I don't know, snow that's just dialed up too high that makes you go too slow in it for no apparent reason, really. So I dropped the loaf off there because I originally wanted to, well I did actually in the end, have a go at that overturned train carriage mission. It wasn't going to be a rapid time anyway because I had a roof rack on the loaf, but I just wanted to find out for the hell of it. And obviously it's a bit more money in the bank while I'm at it. It's funny really starting these missions because I started this mission with about 30 grand and then I put a crane on this, a sideboard bed, a roof rack, an autonomous winch at some point, and then yeah, by the time I finished the mission I got about 4 grand and about 3 of that is what I got off the mission. It's not the best way of doing business. It's funny actually, while I'm going along, it reminds me, it's somebody I worked for years ago, what am I, 31? I worked for him when I was about 18, and this guy was beyond rare, beyond a Dave. This guy was dangerous levels. I don't know, he was he just never grew up or something. He was like a 12-year-old that always wanted to show off. But he basically had his own business and kind of construction, I don't know, building, sort of that area. But he was completely hopeless at it, bless him, and yeah, he used to lose money on every job, but his mum was incredibly wealthy, and every time he used to lose money she'd just kind of give him some more money to top things up. And when I worked for him, one job we did, this is just the level of bad business, but he got a job to knock a house down. So first thing he did was found somebody and bought, I don't know, a 40-year-old crane, not a crane, sorry, imagine, yeah, a big bucket digger thing, I can't remember what they're called now, like an excavator digger, out of a field that's, all the hydraulic pipes on it are all gone and everything. So me and this other guy had to spend about the first 4 days fixing this thing. Actually, to be fair, I did fuck all. I couldn't do, I don't know how to fix a digger, so it was there was no point in me being there. I think at one point I pulled a bit of string to pull a hydraulic pipe further along, and that was about it. That was 4 days paid for sitting in a field chatting to the guy who knows how to fix a digger. At some point we eventually got it fixed so it started, drove it to the edge of the field, then he paid someone obviously to come and pick it up on a low loader, take it to this place where we've got to knock this house down. So we get there, and this is the sort of thing he does. I saved myself there, by the way, with the old crane. We were driving along to the job, and on the way there was a wheelie bin, just like a sort of dustbin thing for those of you that don't call it that was sat kind of a little bit in the road, And we were driving along at about a good 60 mile an hour in a van, and he's like, "Well, watch this," and then he swerved towards the bin, and he hit this wheelie bin that's like not small when you hit it at 60 mile an hour at least or something in like a van. He basically dented up all his bumper, smashed the light. This bin genuinely went sailing over the hedges. It was like, that thing was like 4 gardens over, and that was it. He just was like, we carry on driving. You could hear broken glass from the headlight landing. It's just like, who the fuck is this guy that I've managed to get a job with? And then yeah, even when we got there, there was like hedges on either side of like this opening in the hedge to a garden, and then there's the house we've got to knock down. And as he's pulling up, like, rather than just pull up normally, he has to try and show off and ram the hedge out of the way. But then when he swerved into the hedge, there was a massive log in the hedge, like an old tree that was sticking out the floor, and it dug in behind like the front wheel arch, but at the back of it, and absolutely bent it all up, bent like the corner of his door up, and yeah, it was just like, the guy is a walking disaster. So anyway, next day or two, he then gets fined 25 grand because he didn't have like bulletproof glass or bars over his windows on the excavator digger, and apparently that's against the law and blah blah blah. So that's 25 grand fine. Then he paid a load of money to have, I don't know if I don't know if they're bulletproof windows, but it's definitely toughened glass. It's so light, if anything falls, obviously it doesn't just break straight through like a normal car glass window or something. This thing was like 40 years old. It had like single glazed window. You could probably break it with a pebble. Yeah, so he got these like toughened glass windows and then had steel bars welded over them. And yeah, when we got there one day, this is just again the sort of person he is. He's like, right, we'll get demolishing the house. Jumped in the digger thing. And then, because he doesn't have a bloody clue what he's doing, he was fiddling around with the controls for a minute and then realised what forwards and backwards was. I'm not judging, I don't know really how to drive a bloody digger anyway, but I'd have done the same thing, fiddled around with the controls until something happened that was what I was planning. But anyway, then he just drove at this house, like genuinely just drove into this house, smashed through the middle of it, all the roof, the walls, everything just collapsed in on this digger, which now pretty much vanished other than the top of the digger arm was kind of sticking back out the roof. And then you could just see like the back corner of the tracks. And then he starts reversing out the house, what's left of it that's fell in on him. One of the windows is cracked, I believe. The bars are dented and all sorts. And the whole digger generally, like all the back bit where the engine is all dented up like mad. Where like the roof beams fell on it. And then yeah, he reversed out, climbed out the digger and said with absolutely no irony in his voice whatsoever, well, that was easier than I expected. And then we cracked on with it. And then he got fined another 25 grand because he knocked the house down about a week before he should have, and they hadn't shut the electrics off. By the way, got there about now, was like, what? And then, yeah, finally realised I need service spare parts, not wooden planks. It would be nice, I'm not blaming it, this was my fault, but whoever said, oh, SnowRunner, going to be pure white snow everywhere, what colour should we make the text? And somebody went, well, white should be alright. It's like, no, anything except white would actually be a lot better in this situation, and you have to swing the camera around to try and find a tree or something just so you can read stuff. I mean, yeah, as you can see, it went very wrong. Got back to the garage, set off. It was around now I realised I should probably put an autonomous winch on it, hence even more money gone. Anyway, yeah, one last story about this guy. I'm not even going to say his name, because if he just trust me, if anyone lives around that guy, they'll know exactly who I'm on about. Like, yeah, with this electric box, right, he knocked the house down. Pretty old house. The old electric box was like sticking up out the floor. That was one of the few things that wasn't that damaged. It was pulled over a bit, like bent over from when like the wall tipped down, but it wasn't actually particularly damaged. So anyway, he said to me and this other guy I was working with, the same guy, Steve or something that I fixed the digger with, like, right, you lot get clearing some of the rubble up with the digger, and he's going to go off and do whatever, I don't know. For some reason, I have no idea, me and Steve decided that this electric box was the only thing relatively standing, and that we should demolish it immediately. So for some reason I started hitting it with a sledgehammer, and then he was like, yeah, I'll sort it out, and kept squidging it with the digger bucket again. Just, it doesn't even make sense. And then the phone rang, and it was this guy, and he was like, oh yeah, just forgot to mention, whatever you do, don't damage the electric box. And literally, I looked at Steve at the time, and it's like, he's in the middle of mashing it into the floor with like a 13-ton digger, like, not the digger bucket's 13-ton, but the digger was a decent size, not like a mini digger or something, it was a pretty big beast. Yeah, he's mashing this electric box into the floor, and I was like, doing like cutting your neck signs to him, like, there's that mission abort. And yeah, like I said, he got fined another 25 grand because, yeah, they hadn't turned the power off, and I was hitting this thing with a sledgehammer and then pulling it back out the floor for Steve to give it another whack with a digger bucket. And yeah, there was like 10,000 volts going through it apparently. Could have got serious, but yeah, that was the story. That was a job I used to do. Didn't work there for too long. I'm still alive somehow. As you can see, again, obviously I got to the mission. It didn't go well. I realised I need service spare parts. This is just, these concrete blocks are too stupid. That's what I've realised. However, this is my punishment I deserve, because right now, again, second attempt, and I've managed to actually equip or start tracking the right mission. There's the yellow box telling me there's the stuff I need to collect just in there, but because I was just absolutely not paying any attention whatsoever, I'm blaming that on it. I don't feel very well. And yeah, that's it. Look at it. I'm off back to the here. So I won't leave too much of it in, but I was just showing you this was kind of the point where I was like, hang on a minute. Like, I thought, oh, I'll go back here. I must have picked up wooden planks instead of service spare parts. And then it was about now, I was like, oh, it's there I need to go. Like, well, that would have just saved me about a fucking hour. Have to say though, one way if you need to stretch your missions out on this game, just don't pay any attention to them and assume everything, and they last way longer. I mean, this one mission, like hours of fun. So, finally got to the right place, and to this thing's credit, I now pick up the service spare parts. I believe they don't really weigh sod all. That's what made me think maybe the wooden planks do weigh a bit more, like relatively speaking. I definitely think the concrete slabs are up there. I know they're 2 slot, not 1 slot. I've put my crane legs out though, so pretty stable, but yeah, now I'm on a solid yard, it's actually doing alright. And we're off. Hit the wall. Do you know what? Like, I'm not great at steering on this game anyway. But ever since, was it the Rift update when they originally changed the steering? I've got like SnowRunner steering PTSD ever since then, and just I was fine with steering until then, and then once they changed it to where it auto centers, and then they changed it back. Obviously, it depended which truck you were driving at the time as to how much it affected you. I was driving the Taiga at the time, which was very affected by it, and then I was also reviewing the Voron AE, which has like the absolute opposite steering that still didn't feel like it auto-centered very quickly. And between driving them two and the update, it was like it absolutely just messed with my steering estimation. It was funny, to be honest. Like, on that Rift gameplay mission, one person was so so offended by the way I drove that truck that they couldn't even watch the channel anymore, the entire channel. Apparently it irritated them so much. Which, like, say, I'm not bothered, that's their opinion, everyone's got an opinion. I'm allowed my own opinion. If you want to call me a wanker in the comments, you treat yourself. Free speech is pretty good stuff if you ask me. But yeah, I mean, like, not even taking the piss or anything. Like, I'm not religious or anything, but I pray for the day that I can wake up and it's like, today's biggest problem is the way somebody drove a cartoon truck. Like, how great would it be to, I mean, after he sent that message, you must have been like, well, that's today's problems taken care of. Back to bagattas and blowjobs, I suppose. Must be great. But yeah, I did rally the shit out of that truck. I usually do. However, it was like a perfect storm in that mission, because I was about to go editing, so it was my last 5 minutes I also just got away with some like spider taiga shenanigans. And yeah, I was feeling cocky, and it was like, do you know what, I'm gonna smash this thing up and see how far I can push it. And for whatever reason, it took one hell of a beating. It flew off the cliff, it landed back on its wheels, then I smashed the suspension and the fuel and the tyre, and it still finished the mission. And yeah, see, it was testing, it was for science. So finally, made our way back over here. I ended up taking a different route. See, again, just not paying attention, didn't bother drawing a line. Which, even though I fully blame myself for not paying attention, I actually had quite a lot of fun not paying attention and just being like, oh yeah, not supposed to go there. It was like some serious mission freestyling. Just invented it as I went along until, by pure chance pretty much, the two things coincided and I finally delivered the correct thing to the correct destination. You see there, the winch, the autonomous medium, is too weak, it's too gutless. They've nerfed all the winches, and personally I don't agree. Like, especially not for the strongest winch. I don't know, I suppose it is autonomous, but it's not the point. Like, if it ain't strong enough to tip a truck that weighs hardly anything, then it's not really much use, is it? Long story short, I tried to pick that cargo up, my truck tipped again, so I'm just going to reverse to a bit more flatter ground. Wrong button. One nice thing at this point was like, yes, at least it just reaches that cargo without being a dick about it. And the crane, for the first time tonight, I mean, again, these service spare parts mustn't weigh a lot at all, because the crane was actually fully extending, it was still lifting up, it wasn't being a dick, and I don't know, just the cranes, they've messed with. I have to say, with this game, and it's not, I'm still absolutely enjoying the shit out of this game, so, but I'm saying it because I believe it's the truth. When this game first came out, it felt like a very polished game, I believe anyway, and I certainly didn't have hardly any bugs or anything. I know some people did, and it's like, I get it, I understand, but I can't talk about, like, I don't know, that wasn't my experience. I had extremely few bugs. I had a few blue screens, but compared when I got Black Ops 4, I think it was, that thing was blue screening every hour for about 3 weeks, so relatively speaking, I was getting maybe one blue screen every 10 hours, if that, so it wasn't that bad. But say now, skip ahead to now, and there's definitely, it feels a little bit less polished than it used to be. Like, every now and then the winches turn themselves on, or they stick on. The other day you see my Dolphin driving by itself when I was trying to flip the loaf back up. Yeah, just a few little things where it's, I personally don't think it was a good idea to nerf the winches a bit. They're just things that they keep fiddling with and adjusting, and I don't know, I sort of think, like, say people on PC have got mods, so they can have pretty much anything. So then when they do stuff like nerf, say, the fuel on the Khan Marshal, it's kind of like, why? Because people on PC can just get around that problem, I assume. They can just mod a Khan Marshal with a 72 litre fuel tank or whatever it used to have. Whereas we're all now stuck with a 40 litre Khan that gets hardly anywhere. And yeah, there's just little things where it's like, they should just kind of leave it how it is. And yeah, I think I was like quite happy with the crane strength as well. I don't know if it's a bug, if it's accidental or not, or if they've purposely made them weaker. So when I was driving up there, I purposely aimed to hit my cab on the corner of that pylon, because I knew if I didn't I might tip. And then I sort of did tip as I was wiggling around anyway. Got the crane out though, fortunately it pushed against the pylon. And then now I'm using it as a counterweight. Like, you won't break me, game. I will complete this mission, one way or another. But yeah, I mean, I had it in one of my tips videos. I'll be honest, I don't use it a hell of a lot myself. Not because it's not a good idea, it saves my ass now, because I can guarantee I would have flipped then if I didn't do that. But it's just one of them where you've got to be in the habit of remembering to do it when you actually need to. But yeah, finished the mission eventually. Only took me about an hour or two. $3 though. It's a little bit like, really? I could get $3 in 2 minutes 18 on Battle on the Ice. I mean, not $3, I could get about, I don't know, what is it, 4,400 or something on Battle on the Ice. And then it's only a quick 30 seconds, but after I did the mission, I'm just showing you, like, I left it out as a counterweight because I drove the opposite way here earlier, and if I was going to tip anyway now, it'd be to the right, really. Whereas, because that's a counterweight, and it jabs the floor every now and then, but it doesn't, it goes through them trees, like, you could also, like, adjust the length and height of it as well, though, for your counterweight needs. And then finally, that's basically it with the mission. It was just a little quick bit of messing around with the loaf, of course. I've got to get my loaf time in. I was just driving up here, but look at him. He went for the jump. What a goddamn horse of a vehicle. I don't even know how I made that one, because I was in a first-person view. Because when I was trying to reverse up to that building, the camera just kept going all weird. Yeah, look, these trees. You used to be able to winch to the tiny little ones, and the loaf would very rarely break them, but most of the time it really didn't. Now, like, I'd say they're sort of the medium-sized breakable ones, and you don't even move before they break. And that's with a loaf, let alone like all the biggest trucks. But he's escaped. He's made a break for freedom. Like Braveheart screaming it as he goes off the cliff. Oh no. Sitting on that rock, keeping it warm until its mum gets back. Now, I flew off straight. Rolled on my roof, had a bit of a crap bounce on that rock, but yeah, I mean, like I said before, everything tips. It's like, loaf. SEAL Team Loaf is on the way. See, what you need to do when you go off a jump, or what I like to do with a loaf, give it a bit of a flick, and then, not only do you usually get a roll, I mean, that one was a bit of a horror show that time. For some reason, I took a lot of damage on the suspension. It rarely does. You look at, I jump off the cliff that's, I don't know, like 10 times higher than that on White Valley, and I rarely take any damage, and if I do, it's usually like 5 engine damage. But yeah, 2 loaves is better than 1. Again, this game does kind of teach you. And look at it. I see what you're doing. Yeah, this map in particular, the ice, does teach you travel in pairs. I split them up for about 10 seconds, immediately got the yellow one stuck. OG loaf is on it. It's got the mud tyres though on this one, so as soon as it touches that blue ice, it just skids around. I wish they'd add like some spiky tyres, because otherwise, like, chained is the only thing that works on the ice. And I like chained, but I'm just saying it'd be nice. Like, that's definitely limited the options. Also, I wish you could reset missions. Some people have been saying this comment. I've said it for a while in the videos as well, and it's true. Like, I wish you could just try them again like you do with contests, or just reset the whole map worth. So you're driving along, it's just... It was close, finished the mission loaf. You can see, I like dragging the loaf. I didn't plan on doing it now, I was just seeing if I could get across while I was messing around, but when you drag the loaf through the ice when it's gone through, it makes these nice little channels. You can see some ice locked into my back wheel. But anyway, that's it for today. Hope you've enjoyed, thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.